Eerie music plays. Thunder rumbles as rain pours down a window pane. The screen fades in to show George and Keisha sitting in a dimly lit room, candles flickering around them. George grins at the camera. Hey everyone, George here, but my friends call me Bubba. Keisha smiles warmly. And I'm Keisha. Welcome to our channel. George says, tonight we've got something special for you. Keisha adds, that's right. We're taking you on a journey through 15 spine-chilling horror stories that'll make your heart pound. George encourages, so dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the darkness together. Story 1, The Shadow in the Hallway. The scene shifts to George standing alone in a quiet house. The floors creak under his footsteps. George narrates, I recently moved into this old house. It was charming during the day, but at night, it was a different story. He notices a shadow flicker at the end of the hallway. Hello? Is someone there? Silence. He starts walking down the hallway. The floorboards groan with each step. George wonders, I could have sworn I saw something move. A whisper echoes softly, leave. He spins around, but no one is there. His heart starts pounding. Maybe it's just my imagination. The shadow darts again, this time closer. George concludes, or maybe I'm not alone. Story 2, Whispers in the Storm. Keisha is driving down a deserted road. Rain lashes against her windshield as thunder roars. Keisha narrates, of all nights, my GPS decides to reroute me through the middle of nowhere. Her car starts sputtering. No, don't do this to me. The car stalls. She tries the ignition, but it won't start. Keisha sighs frustratedly. Great, a faint whisper comes from outside. Help me. She looks around but sees nothing through the rain-soaked windows. Keisha mutters, just the wind. A ghostly figure appears briefly in her rearview mirror. Keisha gasps, what was that? She turns around. The back seat is empty. Story 3, The Creaking Attic. George lies in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house is silent until creaking sounds emanate from above. George narrates, third night in a row, something's in the attic. He grabs a flashlight and heads up the narrow stairs. Whispering, he says, let's see what's making all that noise. He discovers an old trunk covered in dust. George is curious. What's this? As he opens it, the shadows behind him begin to move. Unaware, George says, just some old clothes and a diary? A cold breeze brushes past him. He shivers, heart pounding. A whisper warns, you shouldn't be here. He spins around, flashlight flickering. Who's there? Story 4, The Isolated Cabin. Keisha arrives at a secluded cabin in the woods, luggage in hand. Keisha is excited, a weekend away from everything, just what I needed. That night, as she reads by the fireplace, a knocking sound comes from the wall, probably just settling noises. Then, tapping sounds on the window. She approaches slowly. Keisha narrates, is someone out there? She pulls back the curtain, nothing but darkness and trees. A feeling of being watched creeps over her. Keisha shivers. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. Story 5, The Ghostly Figure on the Road. George drives along a lonely stretch of highway at night. George is singing along to the radio, just a few more miles to go. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appears in his headlights, standing in the middle of the road. George shouts, whoa! He swerves sharply, heart racing. Breathing heavily, he pulls over and looks back. The road is empty. Confused, George asks, where did they go? He tries to restart his car, but it won't turn over. Not now. Checking his cell phone, George finds, battery dead? Seriously? Story 6, The Haunted Hotel Room. Keisha checks into a grand but old hotel. The receptionist says, enjoy your stay. In her room, she unpacks as the floorboards creak above. Keisha comments to herself, must be an old building. She hears faint whispers, join us. Shadows flicker across the walls. Nervously laughing, Keisha says, okay, that's creepy. She decides to leave, but the door won't budge. Panicking, Keisha pleads, come on, open. The whispers grow louder. Story 7, The Unseen Passenger. George drives through heavy rain when he spots a woman on the roadside. George comments, she looks stranded. I can't just leave her there. He pulls over. Need a ride? The woman softly says, yes, thank you. She gets in the back seat. After a few moments of driving in silence, he speaks. So, where are you headed? No response. Ma'am? He looks in the rearview mirror. The back seat is empty. Alarmed, George wonders, what the? Tapping sounds come from inside the car. A whisper warns, you shouldn't have stopped. Story 8, Echoes in the Library. Keisha walks through an old library. The scent of aged books fills the air. Keisha narrates, "This place is perfect for my research." She settles at a desk when she hears footsteps. "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer. She shrugs and returns to her work. A book falls off a shelf nearby. Startled, Keisha says, "Okay, that was weird." She goes to pick it up and notices it's open to a page about hauntings. Nervously smiling, Keisha says, "Must be a coincidence." Shadows flicker at the corner of her eye. "Maybe I should finish this at home." Story 9, The Locked Room. George explores an old mansion he's inherited. The caretaker cautions, "Only one rule, never open the locked room." Curious, George asks, "What's inside?" The caretaker warns, "Some doors are better left closed." That night, knocking sounds come from behind the forbidden door. Whispering, George says, "This is ridiculous." He finds the key among old belongings. He unlocks the door to find an empty room. Confused, George asks, "There's nothing here?" A cold chill runs through him. Whispers surround him. "You've made a grave mistake." Story 10, The Phone Call. Keisha relaxes at home when her phone rings from an unknown number. Keisha answers, "Hello?" Silence. Then her own voice echoes back. "Hello." Laughing nervously, Keisha asks, "Very funny, who's this?" Her voice replies in a sinister tone, "I'm coming for you." The call disconnects. Her phone screen glitches and dies. Frowning, Keisha says, "Great, just what I needed." She feels a cold presence behind her. Slowly turning, Keisha asks, "Is someone there?" Story 11, Footsteps in the Woods. George hikes through the forest, enjoying the serenity. He whistles a tune, nothing like fresh air. He hears footsteps behind him. "Hello? Anyone out here?" Silence. He continues, but the footsteps resume, matching his pace. Shadows dart between the trees. Uneasy, George thinks, "Maybe I should head back." He realizes he doesn't recognize his surroundings. Concerned, George asks, "Did I take a wrong turn?" The sun begins to set. George's heart races. "I need to find the trail, now." Story 12, The Mirror's Secret. Keisha admires an antique mirror she bought at a thrift store. Keisha says, "This will look perfect in the living room." She hangs it up and steps back. Her reflection smiles, but she isn't. Startled, Keisha exclaims, "Wait, what?" She moves closer. The reflection mimics her now. Turning away, she hears tapping on the glass. Keisha says, "This can't be happening." She looks again to see ghostly figures behind her in the mirror. Keisha whispers, "Who's there?" Story 13, The Abandoned Asylum. George stands before a dilapidated building. George remarks, "They say this place is haunted. Let's find out." Inside, the floors creak with every step. Distant screams echo. Nervously chuckling, George says, "Creepy ambiance, check." He sees a shadow. Is someone else here? His flashlight flickers and dies. Perfect timing. Whispers surround him. A whisper warns, "You shouldn't have come." Story 14, The Basement Encounter. Keisha hears strange noises coming from her basement. Keisha sighs. Can't ignore it anymore. She grabs a flashlight and heads downstairs. Steps creak under her weight. Muttering, Keisha says, "Just check it out and get back upstairs." Knocking sounds come from the walls. "Hello?" A shadow moves in the corner. Voice shaking, Keisha asks, "Who's there?" The light flickers. The figure moves closer. Panicking, Keisha shouts, "This isn't funny." Story 15, The Final Haunting. George and Keisha meet at a local diner. Keisha says, "You'll never believe the things I've been experiencing." George agrees. "Same here. It's like something is following us." They decide to visit an old haunted site together. Rain pours down as thunder cracks overhead. George shouts over the storm, "Maybe we'll find some answers here." Inside, the atmosphere is thick with tension. Keisha asks, "Do you feel that? Like we're being watched?" A ghostly figure appears before them. The figure whispers, "Your stories have awakened us." They rush back to the car. It won't start. Frustrated, George says, "Not now." The figure approaches. They hold hands, bracing themselves. Keisha exclaims, "We have to confront it." George nods. Together. Back in the dimly lit room, George and Keisha sit facing the camera. George says, "Well, that was more intense than we expected." Keisha laughs lightly. "Definitely gave us a few new stories to tell." George thanks viewers. "Thanks for joining us on this wild ride into the paranormal." Keisha invites, "Do you have any ghost stories of your own? We'd love to hear them." George encourages, "Drop them in the comments below." Keisha ends with, "And remember," both smile knowingly. Stay vigilant in the dark. They wink as the screen fades out. The eerie music swells before ending.